You filled yourself with determination and set your 12 alarms for tomorrow, determined to start the day early, ready to be productive. But when the first alarm goes off, the temptation to hit the snooze button is irresistible. All that enthusiasm from the night before vanishes, and suddenly, getting out from under the covers feels like one of the hardest tasks in the world. Almost as hard as pronouncing Worcestershire sauce. The day, which has barely begun, already feels like an enemy you want to avoid at all costs, not the challenge you should be facing. As the cursor blinks on your computer screen, the to-do list seems to stare at you, begging you to complete it. You know you should be working, but you just can't get started. And when you try, the distractions online become irresistible. You jump from tab to tab, scrolling through your social media feed, hoping the algorithm will deliver something you can't miss. The cycle continues. You refresh YouTube endlessly, waiting for that video with quick edits and flashy content to grab your attention for a few minutes. But this isn't one of those videos. Here, it's just me, my shaved head, a notebook, a pen, and some notes to share with you. Everything I've described so far, I've lived through too. That's why I speak with confidence. You're not lazy, you're just lost. Lost in the middle of an avalanche of super stimuli you can't control. And believe me, that's completely normal. Today, we're immersed in the era with the greatest bombardment of stimuli in human history. It's not that you're weak or incapable. It's practically a miracle to be able to focus. This video will be different from the ones you're used to. There are no frantic edits, no illustrative memes. It's just me talking directly to you. Think of this as a moment to calm your mind, a pause to give your brain a break. My goal is simple, to explain why you're so overloaded and show you 3 essential points to regain control of your life, because I know how it feels. It's one of the worst sensations, laying your head on the pillow at the end of the day and feeling like a failure for not being able to accomplish simple tasks. It can be devastating. Maybe you didn't send that work email, open a document and write 2 paragraphs, or even read the 5 pages you promised yourself. This doesn't happen because you're lazy or disinterested in life. It happens because, at some point, you lost the ability to focus on more complex tasks. Before I continue, I want to make one thing very clear. This video won't solve all your problems at once. It's just a guide, a path for what you need to do from now on. The first step is simple. Watch this video until the end. I know right now you might have a restless hand, want to open another tab, check the comments, or even glance at your phone. But stop. Focus here. This is the first step to regaining control of your mind and, consequently, your life. What I'm about to share with you is powerful. It worked for me, and it works because it's backed by science. Take a deep breath, calm down, and join me. The first point is understanding why you're so overstimulated. Yes, dopamine is a culprit, but not in the way many think. Although it's commonly associated with pleasure, dopamine's primary role is motivation. There's a fascinating study that illustrates this perfectly. They place an animal with its dopamine system turned off next to a lever that, when pressed, released food or even cocaine directly into its vein, an extremely pleasurable stimulus. While next to the lever, it kept pressing it and receiving the stimulus. However, if its body was moved slightly to the side, requiring it to walk to the lever, it would give up. It knew the pleasure was there, but it had no motivation to seek it. Dopamine is linked to the pursuit of pleasure that comes from outside your body. This was crucial for our ancestors, motivating them to hunt, seek water, and find shelter. In today's world, however, that same dopamine motivates us to stay glued to Cristiano Ronaldo's Instagram stories, for example. We live in a world of superstimuli that constantly bombard our dopaminergic system, elevating our pursuit of immediate pleasures to the max. The secret is to learn this and gradually regain control over your own motivation and goals. This makes our dopamine signaling deficient. In other words, we need more dopamine to feel the same effect we once got with less. This is why you feel unmotivated to read, write, study, or work. These activities don't have the same appeal as scrolling through Instagram, dancing on TikTok, or watching series on Netflix. These superstimuli hijack our reward system, tricking the brain into thinking we're about to do something important, something our life depends on. That's why we feel an irresistible urge to open an Instagram notification. One of the most important discoveries in neuroscience in the last 75 years is that the part of the brain that processes pleasure also processes pain, and both function like a scale. This is crucial, so pay close attention. When you eat chocolate or scroll through Instagram, you experience a dopamine rush and feel pleasure. The brain then compensates for that pleasure by downregulating dopamine, balancing the scale that's currently tilted toward pleasure. To restore balance, the brain starts weighing the pain side, but it doesn't always know exactly how far to go. Sometimes it overshoots. Dr. Anna Lemke, author of the excellent book Dopamine Nation, uses the analogy of gremlins. The brain adds these little creatures to the pain side to balance the scale. However, these gremlins enjoy staying on the scale, lingering longer, causing the scale to tip excessively toward pain. That's why after eating fast food or spending an hour scrolling through Instagram without seeing anything useful, you feel a negative effect. The problem is that today, there's no shortage of easy pleasure sources for the brain. We constantly live with the scale tilted toward pleasure due to continuous stimuli. And when you stop for a moment to be at peace with yourself, the brain starts compensating on the pain side, and you find yourself thinking, "My life is horrible." The feeling of being overwhelmed by so many demands, to the point of not being able to complete even a simple task like sending an email or reading an article, is more common than you think. When we're in this situation, we tend to seek an immediate pleasure source to alleviate the emotional weight we feel. But how can we fix this? Although we can't change how our brain works, we can learn to manipulate that internal scale. The key is to first tilt the scale toward pain, forcing ourselves to engage in effortful activities like studying, reading, exercising, or following a diet. When we do this, the brain naturally responds by tilting the pleasure side to compensate. That compensation allows us to experience pleasure in a more balanced and healthy way. Gradually, as you reduce your need for immediate pleasures, your life will become more satisfying overall. The secret is learning to face discomfort in a controlled way to reap the benefits later. It may seem counterintuitive, but what you need to do is embrace discomfort consciously and healthily. By seeking positive suffering, the kind that comes from productive activities, you'll rebalance your mind and body, bringing lasting benefits to your life. In this video, we'll focus on 3 fundamental pillars to help you recalibrate that scale: the mind, the body, and the power of yet. Starting with the brain, the first thing you need to understand is that you have control over what you consume. The state of overstimulation you're in is a result of losing that control. Let yourself be carried away by stimuli you consume without a clear purpose. The good news is that you can regain that control. I realized that as soon as I started consciously choosing what I put into my mind, things began to improve. Otherwise, the algorithm chooses for you, and it always opts for what's most stimulating and available. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you should throw away your phone or quit social media. In fact, the internet and social media are valuable tools. They help us access information, connect with people, and even provide moments of distraction. The real problem isn't using these tools, but how we use them. The focus should be on consuming more mindfully, choosing what you truly want to feed your mind. If you only consume memes and scroll mindlessly, that's like the fast food of the internet. I'm not saying it's bad occasionally. We all love pizza now and then. But imagine eating fast food for every meal, every day. That would affect your health, right? Similarly, consuming content indiscriminately can negatively impact your mind. If you want a healthy relationship with the internet, you need to be selective. So, the challenge is to discover what areas of your life genuinely interest you and seek content that feeds that curiosity. By doing this, you'll not only enjoy the internet more productively, but also rediscover true pleasure in the things you consume and do daily. Let's say you closely follow bodybuilder Ramon Dino's work. From there, you start researching workouts, exercise methodologies, and diets. Maybe you also follow people like Wesley DeLon Garcia, whom I personally admire. If we dive a little into neuroscience, we'll realize that consuming content intentionally is completely different from casual consumption. When you open YouTube or Instagram with a clear purpose, you're actively seeking something specific, not letting the algorithm bombard you with what it deems interesting. This kind of mindful consumption ensures your attention isn't just absorbed, but fed with purpose. By the way, I want to share some recommendations. I'm about to launch a newsletter, and if you want to follow it, the link will be in the description. I'll also recommend other newsletters, especially Sal's, which started as LinkedIn posts and has now become a daily newsletter. The language is super fun, and I highly recommend it. This is how I consume news and stay updated on memes and various topics, all with well-written, curated content. If you want to explore more about mindful consumption, I'll also leave a list of books and articles I reference in the description. Besides consuming more mindfully, I truly recommend finding a way to share what you're learning. It could be through YouTube videos, like I do. By the way, a big hug to all of you who follow me. It's surreal for me to have already reached 10,000 subscribers, and I'm extremely grateful to each of you. My goal is always to offer quality content that's truly worth your time. You could also create podcasts, write articles, texts, or newsletters. The important thing is to start somehow. In fact, the easiest way to take the first step is by doing what I did at the beginning, jotting down everything you find interesting. Record your opinions, thoughts, and reflections. This helps create new perspectives in your life. Creating videos, writing, or producing any kind of content is challenging but extremely rewarding. It's something that, in the end, brings that balance between effort and satisfaction, especially when you finish and feel that wave of dopamine from producing something you're proud of. Understand this. Finding meaning and clarity in life doesn't come out of nowhere. It comes through action. Action brings clarity, not the other way around. To gain that clarity, you need to read, write, and reflect constantly. Now, let's talk about the body, and I don't mean physical appearance. It's important to find a physical activity you genuinely enjoy. It could be anything, from walking to a more intense workout. The key is to incorporate that practice into your daily routine. This lifestyle not only improves your quality of life, bringing more happiness and combating sedentarism, but there's also scientific evidence to back it up. Like the study I'm showing on screen, they compared people who walked 10,000 steps daily with those who reduced it to just 100 and then returned to 10,000. The benefits go beyond the obvious, like reducing insulin resistance or decreasing body and liver fat. Most importantly, any physical activity plays a fundamental role in supporting your metabolism, helping reduce anxiety and improving brain function. Exercise is one of the best ways to rebalance the body and mind, because from the start, it's challenging and uncomfortable. At first, it might feel like a pointless effort, especially on cold days when you wonder, what am I doing out here running? But at the end of each workout, the sense of achievement is unmatched. The key is to find a physical activity that motivates you to leave the house every day, even when it feels hard. The body needs movement, not to meet aesthetic standards, but to sustain our mental, emotional, and physical health. We're not made to spend the whole day sitting in front of a screen. We're creatures of movement, action, heavy breathing, and firm steps. If you've been feeling stuck, stagnant, or disconnected, maybe your body is screaming for attention. Listen to it. Move. Take that first step, no matter how small. Your mind will thank you. Now, I want to talk about a concept that might be one of the most important in this entire video, the power of yet. A few years ago, I came across a book called Mindset by Dr. Carol Dweck, which explores how different mindsets affect our ability to face challenges. She conducted an experiment with 10-year-olds, giving them problems far beyond their abilities. As expected, they failed. Most kids got discouraged, believing their intelligence was being judged and feeling less capable for not solving the problems. On the other hand, a small group of kids reacted differently. They got excited, seeing the challenges as an opportunity to learn something new. Dr. Dweck noticed the difference between these groups was their mindset. Kids with fixed mindset believed their abilities, like intelligence and problem-solving skills, were innate and unchangeable. This led to frustration when facing difficulties. In contrast, kids with a growth mindset believed abilities could be developed with effort and dedication. Sure, some people have natural talents, whether for singing, playing an instrument, or sports like basketball. However, there's plenty of room for all of us to improve in any area we want, as long as we're willing to invest time and energy. What strikes me most about the growth mindset is that it values effort. Often, we think if we need to work hard to solve a problem, it's because we're not good at it. But even geniuses and professionals face challenges and work hard to reach the level of ease we admire. In college, I spent hours studying for an exam or preparing a super complicated assignment. Sometimes I think Michelangelo, at 23, had already sculpted the Pietà, and here I am, wondering if self-help books actually work. I'm a failure. But the truth is, effort isn't a bad thing. On the contrary, effort is essential to achieving anything meaningful in life. Only by dedicating ourselves intensely do we show our brain that what we're investing time in is actually important to us. The question is, how we develop the so-called growth mindset. Dr. Carol Dweck makes it clear that mindsets can change throughout life. In some areas, we might have a fixed mindset, while in others, we develop a growth mindset. The first step is identify where you're stuck in a fixed mindset and working to transform it. The key lies in the power of yet. For example, I'm not good at math yet. I can't play the guitar yet. By adopting this approach, you start valuing the learning process and your own journey. None of us came into this world fully prepared. We all have something to learn and evolve in certain aspects of life. Recognizing this is what gives us the focus to keep going, even when faced with doubts, people trying to discourage us, or situations that make us question our path. Understanding that everything is a process allows us to say, I'm not good at this yet, but I'm on my way. Changing your mindset, taking care of your body, and being more selective about what you consume online are 3 pillars for this transformation. This is what changed my life and motivated me to create this YouTube channel. Share these ideas and help others find their own paths. I know this video was long, and it was just me talking directly to the camera. Maybe you liked it, or maybe you didn't. So tell me in the comments what you thought of this format. The main point, however, is that you are responsible for your own path. The control of your mind is in your hands. If you don't take the reins, the world will take control for you. And the truth is, the world isn't concerned about your mental health or well-being. The world wants to use your attention to generate profit, and it doesn't care what that does to you. But there's something you should be proud of. If you made it this far, you've already taken the first step. You managed to focus on something that isn't constant stimulation, and that is already a victory. It's the beginning of a journey to regain control of your mind, your brain, and your life. Just remember one important thing. This video isn't a magic solution to your problems. You won't leave here transformed into a new person overnight. This is just the beginning of a process. A path you must follow step by step. Now the decision is yours. Will you take control of your brain and your life? Or will you keep letting algorithms decide for you? Maybe part of you still thinks it's not that bad, that you can function even if you're distracted. But if you're here, if this message resonates with you, it's because a deeper part of you is tired of surviving on autopilot. You've already realized you're not broken, just internally disorganized, trapped in cycles you didn't consciously choose. And if you're here, that also means there's something in you that does want to change. And that's enough to begin. Now, I want you to think about this. Who would you be if you applied just 10% of everything you've learned in videos like this? Who would you be if, instead of jumping from video to video searching for answers, you started living the questions? The real answers aren't in the content. They're in practice. In the moment you get up, turn off the alarm, and decide to start, even if it's uncomfortable. Everything you've heard here has no value if it doesn't translate into action. And that starts with a choice. The choice to take responsibility for what you do with your mind, body, and time. You can watch this video over and over, take notes, reflect, but if you don't act, nothing changes. Make this the last video you watch today. Get up, write, read, walk, create, do something for yourself. And when you wonder if it'll be worth it, remember this. The life you want is already waiting for you, but it needs you to become the person capable of living it. That transformation is uncomfortable, yes, but it's also powerful. Because every small step you take away from distraction is a step toward your purpose. There's a version of you that doesn't run from hard tasks, that doesn't hide behind your phone, that doesn't give up at the first attempt. That version is there, waiting for you to awaken it. Every minute you spend on mindless social media is time you could invest in becoming that person. You're not lazy. You're just lost. But you've already found the first map. Now start walking. And walking, believe it or not, is more powerful than you imagine. When you take a step into the unknown, your mind starts reorganizing itself. When you choose to get up earlier, write even when you don't feel like it, read even when you don't understand everything, you're training your brain to work in your favor. You're taking the helm of your attention, steering it away from the stimuli that fragment it. We often think transformation should feel like an explosion of energy, a spiritual revelation, or a radical change. But the truth is, real change is silent. It happens when you choose to keep reading a book instead of opening TikTok. When you choose to go for a walk, even if you're lazy. When you turn off your phone for an hour and face your thoughts. That uncomfortable silence, that momentary discomfort, is a sign you're changing. There's a phrase I repeat to myself when everything feels hard. If it's uncomfortable, it's probably important. Because growth hurts. It's not pleasant, but it's powerful. And the most beautiful part is that you don't need to be ready to start. You just need to start. Don't seek motivation. Seek direction. You don't need to feel inspired every day to act. What you need is to understand that the future you want is only built in the present you choose. You're closer than you think. You just have to return again and again to your intention like tuning an instrument. You're cultivating a clearer mind, a stronger body, a more coherent life. And that's worth any effort. And when you doubt yourself, when you feel like you're slipping back or not making progress, remember it's not about speed, but direction. Real progress isn't always noticeable. It's invisible at first, like a seed underground, germinating long before we see the first sprout. That's your transformation, slow but steady. And if you fall, it's okay. Don't go back to the starting point. Return to the present. Choose again. Start over. As many times as needed. No one taught us how to focus amid the noise. No one trained us to resist algorithms. But now you know, and that gives you an advantage, because you can build an environment more friendly to your attention. You can design habits that protect your mind and feed your energy. Start with an hour without screens, a daily walk, a notebook to record your thoughts, a book to reread when the world feels overwhelming. You're not lazy. You were just intoxicated by distraction. But you've already started detoxing. You've already opened a space for what matters. And every time you choose consciously, you're training a new identity. Someone who doesn't run from effort but embraces it with purpose. That's true freedom. Not the absence of responsibility, but the ability to choose where you focus your energy. We live in a world that wants you distracted, reactive, confused. Because a scattered human is manipulable, but a focused, intentional, reflective human is untamable. And that's you when you choose to pause, think, act, and repeat. When you decide to see your day not as a sequence of impulses, but as a canvas you can paint your way. Maybe you can't change everything overnight, but you can change your relationship with the present moment. You can say, today, just for today, I'll be more mindful. I'll do one thing with attention, one honest action, one deliberate step, one cultivated thought, one firm decision. And when you do that, even if the world around you doesn't change, you're no longer the same. Because every time you act from your essence, you reaffirm your identity. You prove that, despite everything, you can keep going. Not out of obligation, but out of commitment to yourself. That commitment, renewed every day, transforms your life from within. You no longer live reacting to what happens. You live creating what you need to happen. And that's the greatest victory. No longer being a spectator, but becoming the author of your time, of your mind, of your story. Because that's what you are, a story in progress. And this is just one page. Don't judge yourself for a bad day, a bad week, or a tough month. The protagonist always stumbles, but keeps going. And you are that protagonist. Whatever you're going through today doesn't define you. It's just part of the process. And like all processes, this too shall pass. Meanwhile, ask yourself the question that changes everything. What would someone who's already the person I want to be do today? Don't answer with words. Answer with actions. Get up. Do something small but mindful. Tidy your space. Drink water. Breathe deeply. Open that book. Close that app. Take a step. And when you do, you'll feel something familiar, something powerful. The return to yourself. You're not the first to go through this, nor will you be the last. But every time someone breaks the cycle of inertia, they pave the way for many more. You don't know how many people are waiting for your example. Not because you need to save anyone, but because by transforming your life, you become a silent signal that it's possible. That's your greatest contribution to the world. Being you at your best. It's not about being perfect. It's about being conscious. About daring to live with intention. About not staying asleep while life passes you by. Wake up. You're here. You're alive. And you have everything you need to begin. The question is no longer whether you can. It's whether you're willing. And if you are, then start. Today. With what you have. From where you are. Because the future you dream of is built with the small acts of the present you sometimes choose to ignore. But not anymore. Now, you choose to see your life with new eyes. And even if the road is long, even if hard days keep coming, something in you has already changed. You're no longer just someone stuck in the snooze cycle. You're someone who realized they weren't lost, just disoriented, confused, overwhelmed. But now you have a map. And even if you don't have all the answers, you have something more valuable. The ability to return to yourself every time you drift away. Because you're not lazy. You were just distracted, tired, directionless. And now you have direction. Go. Live. Do what you can. And never forget that every conscious step is a silent revolution against the noise of the world. Thank you for being here. Thank you for making it to the end. Thank you for deciding, at least for today, that you deserve your own attention. See you at the next step.